welcome back to Shortcuts to Success, where I, Randy Vieru, share with you how to achieve professional baker's recipes. Today's recipe is going to be for a Gâteau Breton. A Gâteau Breton is a specialty of the northwest region of France called Brittany, and it is a cake that is traditionally made with dried prunes, but I made a little twist and I'm going to be making it with some dried apricots. But if you do prefer prunes instead of apricots, feel free to use that instead and stay traditional to the recipe. This is not your average cake. It's not something that you would use for birthdays or things like that. This is more of a nice treat, maybe if you're drinking some coffee in the morning or later on in the day for some tea time. This is the cake for that. It's not too sweet, it's well balanced with the apricot, and then we add a little bit of lemon juice in there to balance out the sweetness. So this is not something that you're going to feel bad about in terms of sugar content. This cake may look hard to make, but it is actually quite easy, and I have a few tips and tricks in this video that are going to help you make your cake golden and delicious. So if this is something that you're interested in, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you do not miss any new videos. Without further ado, here are the ingredients and the recipe to follow. I'm going to process 150 grams of dried apricots with 150 milliliters of water. This takes about 45 seconds to a minute, and you want to have a puree of this consistency. So now my pan is warm, so I'm going to add my apricots into my pan, and I'm going to cook it until it becomes a little bit darker and thicker. You want to make sure that you stir continuously so that it does not burn. This will take about 10 minutes. After 8 to 10 minutes of cooking, this is the consistency that you want to achieve. Kind of comes together very nicely. There's no more water kind of boiling around it. You want to make sure, like I said, to keep stirring because it does burn even in a non-stick pan. So you want to make sure that you're stirring and that you're watching your apricot puree. Once my puree is done, I'm going to transfer it into a bowl and I'm going to mix in my lemon juice. This will help to balance out the sweetness of the apricot and it'll brighten up your filling. This step is not necessary, but I want to do this to ease my process. And what I'm going to be doing in order for my filling to cool evenly and also in the shape that I'm going to be using it for my Gâteau Breton, I'm going to fill my circle here with my filling and I'm going to flatten it out, and this is how I'm going to cool it. That way when I'm ready to use it, I'm just going to remove the circle and place it inside of my cake. So here I just have a parchment paper on top of a plate, that way it does not stick on there, and then I have a tart ring. But you're more than welcome to just have it in your bowl and just have it cool in your bowl. It's just that later on, once it's a little bit more set, trying to spread it onto our preparation will not be as easy as this. There you have it. My puree is ready to go into the refrigerator while I prepare my batter. This can take about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how thick the layer is or how cool your refrigerator is. So you just want it to be cool to the touch so that it does not melt the butter of your cake batter. For our cake batter, we're going to cream our butter, and we're using the paddle here because we don't want to incorporate too much air into our cake batter. We want it to be on the thicker side, so we don't want to use the whisk for this. So we're just going to paddle this until our butter is nice and light and has gotten a little bit more volume. Now that my butter is nice and smooth, I'm going to add in my sugar all at once, and I'm going to beat to combine. Before I start adding my eggs, I'm just going to scrape down my butter and sugar mixture just to make sure that I don't have any pieces of butter at the bottom. And I'm going to add my egg yolks one at a time on a medium to medium high speed. And again, we want to make sure that everything is nicely combined. So we always want to scrape our bowl. Next, I'm going to be adding my flavorings. So first I'm going to add my rum, then I'll be adding vanilla. Now I'm going to add my salt, baking powder, and my flour. If you don't have a stand mixer, that's definitely understandable. You can do everything until the flour with a hand mixer, and then when it comes to the flour, just mix it with your spatula. And you want to mix on low until it's almost combined, and then you're going to finish it off with the spatula. So this is where I'm going to stop before I mix it by hand. That way we're sure that we're not going to overmix our batter, and also we're going to be able to catch all of that extra flour that might be hiding at the bottom. At this point, there are different ways that you can spread your batter into your baking dish. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be piping it in, but you can also split it in half and using an offset spatula, just flatten it onto the baking dish. So there are different ways that you can do this. I prefer to do it by piping. I just find this to be a little bit easier for me. So this recipe makes about 750 grams of batter. So I'm going to put 375 grams of batter into this piping bag, and then I'm going to reserve the other part for the top of our cake. And then I'm just going to cut the tip of my piping bag. And for this, you don't need a piping tip. We're not making something that's going to be seen. It's just to help us put the batter into the baking dish. And speaking of the baking dish, I am using a quiche ring or tart ring or baking ring, and the size that I'm using is an 18 by 4.5 centimeters. I'll have the link of this tart ring in the description below. So now to prep my ring, this is very important. If you don't do this, all of the work that you will have done up to now would have been in vain, because you will put your batter into here and it will stick and you will never be able to take it out without breaking it multiple ways. So you want to use a pastry brush with a little bit of butter, and then we're going to brush the inside of the ring. And you want to make sure that any side that you think is going to be touched by the batter is covered in butter. Now we have a nice buttery ring. We're just gonna place it on our baking sheet. Now before I start my assembly, I'm going to turn on my oven to preheat at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm just going to pipe the entirety of my piping bag into my baking disc, making sure that I get into the corners, touching the bottom and the corners of the dish. So now I'm just gonna take an offset spatula and even out my batter. And it won't take as long as if I had just dumped it all in here and tried to even that out. And here you really want to make sure that as you're flattening the batter, you're also pushing it towards the tart ring. So now we're going to place our insert, our apricot filling that's been chilling in the refrigerator. It's now been about 30 minutes, so it's perfect timing. Here is my filling, and I'm just going to flip it over and wiggle this a little bit. And because I have my parchment paper under there, it's not going to stick to the plate. So this is why it helps to use the parchment paper. So I'm just gonna remove my ring. So now I'm going to place this insert onto my batter, and we want to leave about 1 centimeter perimeter. That way we can fill our batter, and that way it will not leak in the baking. Same as the bottom layer, we're going to pipe our batter onto the filling and around to cover. So again, we want to make sure that we're getting the corners and the batter meets. That way we can ensure that it's not going to leak. And then because our filling is a little bit tacky, we want to be careful as we're piping. We want to be as even as possible. That way we won't have to use our offset spatula too hard onto our batter to make it nice and even. So we want this time to pipe a little bit more even so that we're not crushing our filling. All right, again, using our offset, we're going to flatten out and even out our batter at the top. And to get a nice smooth top, what I'm doing is I have my offset just at the top of my batter, and I am not pressing too hard. I'm just moving my tray so that I can have a nice smooth surface like this one. Now I'm going to pop this into the freezer for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to show you guys how to decorate the top. For our egg wash, I'm just whisking together 1 large egg with about 1 tablespoon of cream. For this, you can use cream, you can use water, you can use just the egg. It is up to you depending on the level of gold that you want the top of your cake to be. I like a nice golden brown topping. If you want something a little bit more subtle, you can do just the egg white, or you can add 1 tablespoon of water into your whole egg. So many options, but if you want to follow the recipe and get the result that I got or something close to, you can use 1 whole egg and 1 tablespoon of cream. All right, my tray has been in the freezer for about 10 minutes. So now I'm going to egg wash the top of my cake batter. And the reason I put it into the freezer is so that the top kind of firms up and I can make better designs, and also for the egg wash to actually stay on the top and not blend with the batter or mix with the batter. For our design, I'm going to be using a fork, just like a regular fork from your kitchen, and I'm going to be making diamonds. Some people do it this way. I like to do it from the back of the fork, whichever way is more comfortable for you. I'm just starting at one end and inserting. And for this, you want to be sure of yourself. You want to make sure that you're going from one end to the other. Do not be scared. And this is about 1/16 of an inch into the batter. You don't want to go too deep, but you also don't want to be too shallow. And I have them about 1 inch apart. And this is the fun part, so do not stress out over this. Now I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to combine this end with this one. And then I'm going to combine this part here with this end here. And then here. And you can cheat a little bit. Like I said, this is the fun part. This is not supposed to be stressful. And then you end up with some cute little diamonds. There you have it. My cake is ready to go into the oven at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes to an hour. We want to check and make sure that the skewer is coming out clean and that our top is nice and golden. Here is my cake after 50 minutes of baking at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It is beautiful, it is nice and golden. You want to let this set for about 30 minutes to an hour before taking an offset spatula and running it around the rim to remove the tart shell and let the cake rest for another 30 minutes. I love the golden color that we have on here, but I also have here a 1-to-1 ratio of apricot preserve and water. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brush it over to give it a nice little glaze. And it's going to bring out that design even more. So you don't want to soak it, you just want to brush it lightly on top. And you want to do this while it's hot. That way it kind of cooks off the water and you get this nice glaze of the apricot preserve. Okay guys, my cake has settled a little bit better. It is still warm, so I'm going to just run my offset spatula. And when you're running the offset spatula, you want to push it against the tart ring and not so much against the cake. And you just run it. You want to make sure that you're touching the bottom of the tray, and then you can just remove it nice and clean. And because we buttered it, we don't have anything stuck too crazy. And if we hadn't buttered it, it would have just been like glue onto the tart ring. So it is very important to brush your tart ring with some butter. There you have it, guys, my beautiful, golden, delicious Gâteau Breton. I hope that these steps were easy to follow. If you have any questions, please make sure to put them in the description below. And if you decide to reproduce this recipe at home, please make sure to tag me on Instagram at Shortcuts to Success. This recipe can be made by hand, but it is best if you use a stand mixer. It is a little bit higher in price, so I totally understand if you decide to go another route with this one. And again, I'll have my affiliate links in the description below. These are Amazon affiliate links, which means that I do get a percentage of the sale, but you don't pay anything extra. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you are notified whenever I drop a new recipe. Until next time, cheers!